Good morning. A little after 8 o'clock, but Mike was a little bit late leaving for work this morning, so he's now safely on his way to work. And I am here for an 8 o'clock live on a Monday morning. Let's do this thing. So, my name is Helen Jennings. I am a Stampin' Up demonstrator based here in the UK. The sun is just coming up. It's getting lighter out there. And we're going to be looking at the Parisian Blossoms Suite. So on Thursday we were having some fun with all the cute little creatures from the Bonanza Buddies stamp set. So a real change of tack this morning. We're going a bit more soft and gentle and some really pretty colours and a real sort of love sort of Parisian theme. So this is a really beautiful suite, and we'll look at it in a bit more detail in a minute. So Parisian Blossoms. The suite comprises of papers, 2 different stamp sets with 2 different coordinating dies, an embossing folder, some gorgeous, and I love them, champagne rhinestones, and some really pretty paper. And as I was saying when I went through the catalogue the other day, one of the things I really like is that they highlight the colours that they've used. Hi Glenda, hi, Happy New Year to you, hope all is well. They highlight the colours that they've used in the papers and things in this little block just here, which is really lovely. And we are going down the cherry cobbler route today. Because as always on a Monday morning, back in last decade, at the end of the last decade when we were doing regular Monday morning Facebook Lives, Monday morning is Case the Catalogue, and there's some just stunning samples and things in the catalogue. But this one really caught my eye, this cherry cobbler one just here. So I thought that's the one that we would have a play with this morning. So let's have a little bit look at this. We've looked at it in the catalogue. Here they are in real life. So this is sort of the central stamp set that we're going to be using this morning, this Forever Blooms one. It really is lovely. You've got this huge sort of cherry blossom branch here. And cherry blossom has a bit of a soft spot for me. When we got married in May, and a lot of our wedding photos were taken under a tree, a cherry with cherry blossom on it. So yeah, really pretty. So your cherry blossom tree, you've got these leaves, this little bud just here, this single flower, and some really nice greetings. You mean so much to me, wishing you a long life together, always and forever. So, you know, really sort of touching on the weddings and anniversaries and those sorts of things. So absolutely perfect for those sorts of occasions. And here we have the dies that go with them, and you've got this big die here that cuts out these flowers, but you've just also got this branch. You've got all these separate little flowers, these little small ones here that cut out in pairs, the bigger leaves that cut out your leaves and things in your stamp set. Some flower centres there, look. 2 little buds so that you can be stamping them and then cutting them out 2 at a time, which is always useful. So if you want to fill this branch with lots and lots of flowers, you can do that fairly easily, because you can be doubling up the flowers as you're cutting them out, and the leaves. So really lovely stamp set. So that's the one, that's the Forever Blossoms, and the dies that go with it. And the other stamp set is this one that's featuring the Eiffel Tower. You've got this fleur-de-lis, you've got this little postmark set here, and again, follow your heart, it will take you to incredible places, life is a magnificent adventure. You've got this lovely script stamp just here, which is really useful, this little border down here. So a really lovely stamp set, and that goes with this die set, and it's got this really intricate Eiffel Tower, which is fabulous. You've got this one that cuts out your Eiffel Tower on your stamp. You've got a couple of scripted dies there. You've got one that says Amour and one that says Merci. You've got this lovely swirl, which is really, really delicate, and I think I've got it as an example on a card somewhere. So they're really lovely dies. So that's the Parisian stamp set and die. The embossing folder is just beautiful, and we're going to be playing with that this morning. This ribbon, so it's petal pink with this champagne metallic edge, just really pretty and really beautiful. And then there is these champagne rhinestones that sort of are a little bit pinky. Just when they pick up the light, they're just beautiful. So those are lovely. So that's the stamps and the dies, the embossing folders, and then you've got the paper. And the paper is also, it's a specialty paper. I've used some, as you can see. Let's see if we can find you. Oh, that's useful. I'm going to pop that in my basket because I'm going to use a bit of that, and I've picked out a bigger bit, but that little bit will be perfect. So you've got the Eiffel Tower on here, look, in champagne foil. The other side is this really nice pool party sort of scallop. Locks and keys, that's fabulous for if you're doing key of the door type, engagement, new home. These really lovely flowers, again with champagne foiling on. And that's a sort of a petal pink scroll on the background there. More slightly smaller flower, but again with champagne foiling. And this has got a bigger scroll on. They're lovely, aren't they? This one has got like the suitcase and the postmarks. That'd be fabulous for a scrapbook page, wouldn't it? And you've got your Eiffel Tower postmark, sorry, that's upside down, on the back there. And then this is beautiful. You've got that petal pink with that champagne foiling on the back there. So really lovely. And that sort of colourway of the petal pink and the pool party with a little bit of flash of cherry cobbler along with your champagne foil. It's just beautiful. So I've made, I had actually, so I've done a few cards with this already. We had a class on, we had a stamper stack last week where we made 6 cards to each of these 3 designs. So that one is sort of very, this is the embossing folder in the back here that we've sponged with petal pink. You've got some of that scripted DSP just there. You've got the Eiffel Tower cut from champagne foil. Here's some of those flowers. Can you see that detail on those flowers? We've sponged those with those little rhinestones. This is that swirl in the back here that we've die cut. There's the amour that again we've sponged. There's some of that ribbon. So that's got a bit of everything on there, but beautiful, and that is sort of carrying on those colours really. I've used very vanilla in that one. That's carrying on those colours from the catalogue. This one went balmy blue, so that isn't, so it's a slightly different blue from the one in the catalogue. This Eiffel Tower is embossed. You've got your script, you've got that big blossom stamp there, really pretty. You get a bit more sponging. This one was going totally out the box. This one went red, white and blue, and you've got your red embossed, you've got your white sparkly, you've got your blue that's got that script stamp on it, the Eiffel Tower embossed in white and die cut onto blue card. So yeah, that one was, you've got your little postmark down there. So that one was very different, but that was intentional. I wanted it to be very different. Wanted to show that you can go outside of the sort of romantic pinks and blues. Got my cup of tea. Some things don't change, maybe a new decade, but I've still got my cup of tea. Right, let's have a little look. I love these sets too, Glenda, they're just beautiful. Let's have a little look at, see if we can recreate this card just here. So I've got a whole pile of things in a basket behind me. I'm going to pop these in the basket behind me just so that we've got them on hand when we need them. So let's start with a piece of cherry cobbler card. So we're going down the cherry cobbler route for this one. And I'm going to make this a side opening one just because they stand better on the mantelpiece, I think. So I'm going to cut it 10.5 centimetres and I'm going to score it at 14.9. score that card. There's our card base. I'm also going to need a piece that I think I'm going to make it 13.9. I'm going to make it a whole centimetre shorter by 9.5 because we look to have quite a margin. Now that doesn't show very well, it will show up a bit better in a minute. We also need a piece of Sahara sand card that's going to sit behind that cherry cobbler one, so I'm going to make that half a centimetre shorter again, I think. So I'm going to make that 13.4 by 9 centimetres, so that will sit behind there when we're getting to the point that I need to replace my blade, I think. But that's not bad going. I've had this trimmer since it first came out, and that will be my first blade change when I get round to doing that. So we've got our cherry cobbler card base, we've got our cherry cobbler on the top, we've got our Sahara sand to sit behind, and the rest are just little bits, I think, that we're going to be needing to stamp on and die cut and colour and all of those sorts of things. So I think we'll start with getting ready, preparing this cherry cobbler piece just here. So I'm going to dig around in the basket behind me, and I want an oval. I think I'm going to come down slightly from that one, am I? No, I think we will have that one. I'm going to cut an oval from that front piece. And these are the layering oval dies. So we've got layering oval dies. There's also some stitched ovals in our stitched shape die set, but this one is the layering ovals. So let's lay that on there so that we're happy. And these layering shapes, the ovals, the circles, the squares, are so useful. And you have a set that's just a plain oval, and then we've also got the scalloped ovals in there as well. So we've gone with just a plain oval. We've just cut a plain oval out of the centre of there, and also we now have an oval that we can use on another card somewhere. Let's shut that up. We shall need it in just a second, so I'm not going to put it away anywhere. I'll just put my oval back on its magnetic mat so that we know where it is. In actual fact, I'm going to open this up now, and I'm going to take off my thin die adapter, and I'm going to put aside my 2 plastic plates because I'm going to bring in the embossing folder. So the Parisian Flourish 3D embossing folder, and this is, as it is a 3D one, I am going to pop the card in there. Let's line that up. Let's have those little flowers sort of on the edges, both sides. It's a nice thing about these embossing folders, you can see through them. You can see where you want your card to lie. So I've laid my card in there. Now obviously I've cut it first, and to cut the hole out of it first and then embossing it. You don't want to do it the other way around, because if you do it the other way around, when you go to die cut your oval out in the middle, you will squash your embossing. So you want to do it first. You want to do cutting first, then embossing. So I've used my blue embossing mat, my blue plastic mat, with this 3D embossing folder. You can build up, if you haven't got one of these, you can build up layers with a bit of shimming to make it the right thickness. But the blue plastic plates are available, and they do make life so much easier with these 3Ds, because that is just perfect. Look at that, stunning. Right, let's pop these bits back on there and pop our blue mat to one side for now, because we have got a bit more die cutting to do. Pop that down there for now. We're going to bring in our a bit of embossed frame, and I'm going to bring in a Whisper White craft ink and some sponge, and I'm just going to sponge over the top of that to make that embossing really pop. I could have done this possibly with some shimmer paint. That would have made it shimmery as well as white, but that's really quite effective. I've gone a bit heavy-handed in that corner, but there we go. We have. That's really made that pop now. So that is going to sit on that, and that will be very obvious where that is now. You'll be able to see the border around it. So let's do our Sahara sand piece behind. So for our Sahara sand piece behind, we're going to take this nice long script stamp from the Parisian Suite. And let's take a H block to pop that onto, and some Sahara sand ink, because we're going to do it tone on tone. And we're just going to ink up this stamp. Actually, I'm going to turn it round because it's quite a long stamp. Make sure it's well inked. And this obviously is just going to be along the sort of centre of this. So, use my head if it gets in the way. Just down the centre of this piece of Sahara sand card. And I will just check in a minute that we're covered and that it's all. Possibly don't need to do another one, but we will anyway, one for luck. So we've just stamped that down the middle there, so that when we sit this on the top, yes, that covers it, doesn't it? That looks a little bit wonky, but we've got a little bit of wiggle room to be able to sit that underneath there like that. Fabulous. Starting to build that now. Let's clean this stamp up. And then we're going to bring in the Eiffel Tower stamp. Now for that one I think we'll go for an I block. Just about sits widthwise on there, and a little bit of Whisper White card, and I think we'll do that in soft suede. So again, let's ink that up, another really long stamp. There's our Eiffel Tower. It's a lovely stamp, loads and loads of detail in there. Beautiful, and we've got a die to cut that out, so we will do that in a minute. But first of all, we'll do the other stamping and that we need to die cut as well, and then we can get the machine up and do that all in one go. So the other things that we need are the other stamp set. So the blossom, we need this big blossom here, and we need a couple of these flowers and one of these little leaves. So let's stamp those, and we're going to stamp those onto some shimmery white because we're going to do a little bit of watercolouring. So we shall need some Stays On ink. think we need a slurp of tea. Hi Louise. I love it. I love this set. It's be fabulous if you've had a weekend in Paris and want to do a scrapbook page. I think that may be slightly wishful thinking for me to have a weekend in Paris, but you never know. You just never know. Right, let's go for one of these blocks, I think, for this one. An E block. We can fit that nicely on an E block. And then we're also going to need this one. And just looking at that. Where, oh where have my little leaves gone? Can I get you to bear with me just a minute, because I was using this. Hi Wendy. Eiffel Towers are fabulous, yeah. I'm just going to pop, because I was using this with the lady on Friday and I'm wondering if it's got put into the box. So bear with me 2 seconds. Sing amongst yourselves. They had found their way amongst the little birds, little monkeys. Right, okay, so let's put this single leaf away. We're going to need this double, no, not, let's swap that round. Let's get the single leaf out. We're going to need the single leaf and we're going to need that flower. Okay, we're back on track. Many years ago, I used to work in the post office. Just before and just after I was married, actually, and we used to have to cash up once a week. And our manager, when it didn't tot up, when we were busy looking for where some money had gone missing, where we'd miscalculated, he used to say, "Let us rejoice. That which was lost now has been found." That's very much the case this morning. Morning, Wendy. We can rejoice, our leaves have been found. Right, so stays on ink. One of my ladies was saying how much she loves the smell of stays on ink the other day. I tell her we had to watch that, you know, a bit of solvent abuse, sniffing stays on. I'm sure it can't be good for you. I haven't yet got to the brown stays on, so we have in our catalogue now got a brown stays on ink, so you can watercolour with it, but it's brown rather than black, and actually that would have been the preferred option for this card this morning, but I'm afraid I haven't got it, so it will have to stay with being black. So there we are, there's our big flower branch, really, isn't it? It's not a sprig, because it comes from a tree. So there's our little bit of cherry blossom branch, our 2 single flowers, and our leaf. As always with stays on, you want to get your lid on it as quickly as you can, because you don't want that sitting around and drying out. Being a solvent based ink, it will dry out incredibly quickly. And then we're going to do a splash of watercolour painting, and actually we really do just want little splashes of colour with these. So I could have got out ink refills and put a bit of each ink into a palette, but I'm just going to squeeze into my lid. So we've got a bit of petal pink there, we've got a bit of pear pizzazz, we have a little bit of soft suede and a bit of Sahara sand. So let's go with some soft suede and we will do our do our branches, as always with watercolouring. One, I'm doing it a bit faster than you would need to do it. You can take a bit more time than me. But two, being watercolouring, you can afford it, you know, you can be a little bit, there's a bit of leeway with it. Doesn't matter if you go out of the lines a little bit, it gives it a softer sort of finish anyway. So there is some soft suede. Let's go in with some pear pizzazz on these leaves. I'm going to lay down some colour on these leaves. And I'll perhaps come in and put a bit more colour down where they're obviously a little bit darker and in the shade. And as I say, you wouldn't take more time over this than I can. You can wait for it to dry and go in and do a bit more. You can bring in your watercolours and add in a bit of shading. We could have brought in a slightly darker colour. But there, that's a bit of colour on our leaves. And let's put down some colour on our flowers. And I'm sort of going to put colour in the centre pieces up here. I'm going to leave a little bit looking a bit white. Where this shading is around the edge, I'll put a little bit more pink. I'm going to deliberately leave white pieces, and that's another good thing to do whenever you're colouring, really. Don't be afraid to leave white space. A bit of pink around these edges. So as always, say we're casing the catalogue this morning, which we always do on a Monday morning. But as always, it is just, I have a list of ingredients, and it is always an element of guesswork. So mine may not turn out exactly as the one in the catalogue. And sometimes I'm deliberately go off-piste anyway. I'm going to put some pink on these buds. I'll give this another squeeze. Could do with a little bit more. And again round the edges. And this one. This is literally watching paint dry, so I do apologise. There we go. There's some pink, and then we will just add in a little bit of the Sahara sand, just for a little bit of darker shading in that middle. Just helps to make it pop a little bit. There we go. So there's some flowers coloured in, and obviously, as I say, you can take a lot more time than I've just done to do that. Oh, excuse me. But let's bring in our dies. Let me sit that up there a minute. We need to die cut our flowers, our Eiffel Tower. Morning, Hannah. There's our large Eiffel Tower. There's one of our little single leaves. It's not a large Eiffel Tower at all, is it? That's the large flower. There's the Eiffel Tower. Dear, oh dear. I'm sure the brain is getting more and more addled by the day. Right. So there's the Eiffel Tower. Can I squeeze one of these flowers in here, because then I can run the other one through. Now then, this is let's get my eye in on the flowers as to which way round this die goes. So I've just had a bit of a twiddle with that. So that die is sitting correctly on that flower. So if we can run those through, and then next run through we should be able to get the rest of the flowers and the leaf. So let's run that through. Crack, crack, crack. Let's bring it back for good measure, just because it'll be easier to get it out this side than the other side. So there's our flower, and there's our Eiffel Tower. I'll pop those dies behind me for a minute so we don't lose them. And then, oh no, I want that flower one. Too carried away. So then we need this flower. Like that. There is only one way that it sits on it, so it is a bit of a wiggle it round till you're happy. And the leaf. And then this beautiful big cherry blossom bough. About like that, I think. Could have got my magnetic base plate out, of course. Right, let's put this down here. And hopefully we can take these off. There's our leaf. Look at that, isn't that stunning? Sort of cuts out these centre bits as well, and it just that's just a beautiful stamp and die combo. And let's put aside our little scraps of card for now. So how are we doing? We've got Eiffel Tower that's going to come up here. We might need to chop a bit of him off, but we will work that out in a minute. So bring him across here somewhere. Then we'll have our flowers coming up the side here. And a couple more flowers over here. And then we will just need our little greeting. So I've just got a little piece of when I can find it. Sorry, having a dig around in my basket, looking for the little pieces of garden paper I'd popped in there. She wants some white embossing powder. I'd very diligently put in here, there we are, a little bit of black card, and then somewhere there was that little piece. That's what we want. I knew they were there somewhere, hiding from me. So we're going to want the Parisian Beauty stamp set out again, and we're going to need this little amour just there. So let us find a block. We'll go long again, we'll have a little G block for this one. Let's find our embossing buddy, and yeah, we can very easily go across this way. A little piece, a little addition of some Versamark. Let's ink up our amour with some Versamark and stamp it across there. Bring in some white embossing powder. I'll put a line on that. There you go, just goes to show none of us are immune. But one paintbrush later and that's gone. Let's heat up our heat gun. So this certainly isn't a quick and easy card. There's a few steps to it, but hopefully we will think it's worth it when we've finished. There we are, that's turned. Bring in the snips. Actually, what I want at this point is my little trimmer. Perfect for this job, but I think I've left that in the pile with everything else in the other room. So that's okay. Let's snip that. We've got our little more, and then we just need a little bit of this DSP to go underneath. I'm going to cut along that line, those spots just there, I think. And we'll cut up that line just there. We're going to give it a little banner end like that. Snip it off at that line just there, I think. There we go. That will sit on the top like that. Perfect. Right, let's put this baby together. So we want that Eiffel Tower to come up the centre there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little tiny bit of Tombow about there, so that that holds that in place on there, so that when we come to stick it down we will be able to place that correctly. Let's take our snips and chop off at the feet. So there we are, we've got our Eiffel Tower. So let's now build this up. Again, I'm going to put a little bit around the edge of that. And then I'm going to put a little bit on the back of that. So that when we bring this together, we can wiggle that around till we're happy that that script is sort of straight under there. I've got a little bit of wiggle room there, as long as it's not showing out of the side, and our Eiffel Tower is sticking on top. And I think we'll put some dimensionals on the back of that and rise it up a little bit. Why is it when you're looking for dimensionals you only pick up the size that you don't necessarily want? Oh, that one's got some edge bits on, that one will do. Let's just snip some of these edge bits. So that we can raise this up. Of little ones in the middle there. Take the backings off. Now when we look on the back you can see that that's not sitting on there straight, but that doesn't matter, it's looking straight on the front, which is what we want. We can see a bit of the Eiffel Tower sticking out underneath, but that doesn't matter because we're not going to see any of that when we turn it over. Let's get rid of these centre pieces and we will lift that onto there like that. And then let's take this large flower cherry blossom bough, put some tombow on the back of that, and going to come around about like that, I think, so that this flower here is covering up where you got the legs of the Eiffel Tower just there that looked a little bit ugly. I'm going to stick one of these flowers on flat up here. And the other one I'm going to raise up a little bit. Oh, my tummy's telling me it must soon be breakfast time. I always wait and have breakfast after I've done this 8 o'clock live. Let's have that little leaf in there like that. And last but not least, we need our little greeting. So let's stick our sentiment, our amour, on top of our paper, and then I think, oh, we'll put some, let's go with the little ones, the hexagonal ones. Let's put a couple of those on there. And we'll have that coming just there somewhere. There we go. So there we have our cased card. The Eiffel Tower in the background there with the script, with the scrolly embossing folder, a bit of sponging, a bit of watercolouring, a bit of stamping, die cutting. We've had it all going on there. Beautiful. So here's the one from the catalogue. Here's ours. Just goes to show the difference of colours in printing, doesn't it? So there we go. And there's ours, and we'll add in the ones that we did. These are the ones that I showed you earlier that I did at the Stamper Stack last week. So we're getting quite a little bundle of Parisian things there, and I have got a couple of others around that I've made. But I think that one's really pretty. Thank you, Glenda. So thank you for joining me this morning. As I say, Tummy says it's now breakfast time. I'll be back on Thursday and we will play some more with some of these stamp sets and see what else we can create with them. It's always good fun. Wednesdays are always the off the top of my head days, so there's no telling where that will take us. So lovely to see you, be back with you. Thank you, Wendy, and I will see you all soon. Have a good day and have a good beginning of the week.